International Conference 2023, Integration of Yoga in School Education.
Keeping to tradition, let's begin with the Shanti Mantra. Please prepare your asana. Become conscious of your breath. Exhale, relax. Ek Onkar and then Shanti Mantra. Inhaling. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Slowly allow your eyes to open.
It's a new day, a new start. I invite on stage Dr. R.S. Bhogal, Joint Director Research at Kaivalyadhama, along with our panelists, Dr. Praseeda Menon and Dr. Aditi Kaul, to please light the lamp. Thank you. I request our panelists to please be seated. We take this opportunity to announce the winners of our poster presentation, requesting Dr. Bhogal to please congratulate our winners.
In the scientific research track, in second prize, we have Dr. Abhirami Manchikam. And in first place, we have Mr. Jasmine Panchasara. If you all are here, please come up on stage to receive the certificate and prize. Okay, thank you.
We move on to the winners of the Philosophico-Literary Research. The second prize goes to Singh B.S. And the first prize goes to Neelachal Padmashanti.
Neelachal.
We have on stage winner of the Philosophico-Literary Research poster presentation, Neelachal Padmashanti. The title of the poster was Enhancement of Quality in Students and Teachers through Improved Curriculum and Faculty Development Programs based on Ancient Indian Teachings and Yogic Lifestyle. Congratulations to you.
Without further ado, we'll begin with the second plenary session of the conference, Role of Yoga in Personality Development. Our first panelist is Dr. Praseeda Menon, Ph.D. Research Officer and Assistant Professor at Kaivalyadhama Yoga Institute. Dr. Menon has over 10 years of work experience as a research officer at the Scientific Research Department. She conducts research on the psychological and mental health aspects of yoga. She believes in inclusive practices in school education and over the years has been working to introduce yogic practices to children with special needs and to their educators and caregivers. She has well-published research studies and several conference presentations to her credit. She is a recognized Ph.D. supervisor of the college's research center affiliated to the Kavikulaguru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Nagpur. A delight to have you with us, ma'am.
Our second plenary speaker is Dr. Aditi Kaul. Dr. Aditi Kaul holds a master's and Ph.D. in psychology and specializing in Indian integral psychology. Her primary focus is on integrating self-knowledge into education and psychology, advocating for an integral way of living. Dr. Kaul serves as a guest faculty for integral psychology at Aurobindo University, Surat, and offers online courses and workshops through the Namha platform under the Sri Aurobindo Society, Pondicherry. She actively contributes to the YES, Yoga, Education and Spirituality project managed by the Yes Spirituality Trust. A delight to have you with us, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
Our moderator for the session is Dr. R.S. Bhogal. Dr. Bhogal brings over 30 years of experience in meditation research and teaching. He is the former principal of Govindram Seksaria College of Yoga and Cultural Synthesis, editor-in-chief of Yoga Mimamsa, and has authored 7 books. He holds the first ever Ph.D. in fundamental nature of Shiva Samhita meditation from Savitribai Phule, Pune University. He has numerous scientific papers and has received both national and international awards. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhogal. I now request Dr. Bhogal to felicitate our plenary speakers. Dr. Praseeda Menon. Dr. Aditi Kaul. Thank you, sir. We now hand over the proceedings to you.
Thank you very much, Harsh. I am quite elated to be with you all, your presence, even at the last and end of this conference. You have made us felt your presence. Thank you very much for that. In the beginning, I want to speak about poster presentation a bit. We had very promising poster presentations, and very narrowly, some people missed the award. Out of them, Abhiram and Mrs. Rani Burma, they had a wonderful theme. But it so happened that we had 4 raters, and therefore, in sum total, someone has to win, someone has to narrowly lose. It means it's not the losing, in fact. So, thank you very much for all that participation, and we look forward from you a better presentation, better and better year by year. The theme of this panel discussion is quite relevant and quite need of the hour. Whenever we speak about integration of yoga in schools, we have to look forward as to what are the changes taking place in positive way in students' personality. Now, personality is the theme which is understood by many people. But the question is yoga limited to personality? Not very much. Yoga, yes, encompasses personality, but it goes beyond personality. So we have everywhere in all scriptures, for example, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Shelam Bhogapavargartham Drishyam. It means the same seen world is cause for liberation as well as it is cause for bondage. It means we have to transcend the same world, avidya mrityum tirtva avidya mritamashnute. All sciences, physical sciences, all material sciences are helpful to us to know our existence here and now, and then we move forward towards spirituality. This is the echo we hear in all our Shad Darshanas. All Shad Darshanas. Now here we look forward a very, very lively discussion, interaction on this. What are the themes, what are the premises whereby human being will be gaining, particularly students, children would be gaining out of yoga as far as their personality is concerned, and they transcend their personality to become a better citizen. So we are very excited like you, and I will not come between speakers and you anymore. Thank you very much for your patience, and I request Dr. Praseeda Menon to present her say whatever she wants to speak about personality development through yoga.
Namaste everyone. It's an honor to be here amongst this august audience, and it's a pleasure to share a few thoughts about how yoga can contribute to personality development in school education. So since I'm the first speaker, I have the privilege of giving you a little bit of orientation towards these words that we are using in the title. So I'll first give you an overview of the talk. So we'll start with what does personality and personality development mean. We'll go into the concepts of yoga. We'll also touch upon the aims of education as explained in the National Education Policy of 2020, because that is going to come into force and that's going to take over the education system now, and how yoga fits into this completely as a complete package for personality development. We will also very briefly touch upon the evidence of yoga in schools, although this has been very well covered in yesterday's plenary session 1 by Dr. Shirley Tellis. And then we'll also look at why it is important for us not just to look at children, but also school teachers according to the national curriculum framework. And we'll also look at what are the mechanisms through which yoga works really on personality. So what is personality? I'm going to give you a few thoughts from psychology. So you all know this already, but if we have to offer a definition, then it is the distinctive and enduring ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that characterize a person's responses to life situations. So here there are two things. There is distinctive and there is enduring, which means there is uniqueness as well as there is stability. And we'll touch upon this a little more later. There's one more definition which is easier for you to understand because it deals with our major personality traits, interests, drives, values, our abilities, our emotional patterns, and personality includes all these characteristics, and it is very unique and how we adjust to our life and life situations. Coming to the phrase personality development. So if you look at psychology, it is thought of in a very different way. Why? Because there is a study called personality psychology and there is a branch called developmental psychology. So personality development, according to psychology, is a combination of these two subfields. And if we talk of personality development in psychology, it is talking about the change as well as the stability of a person's enduring characteristics between people, within a person, across the lifespan and across life situations. So this is important. I will explain a little bit more after we look at the way we are going to take personality development today, the way we understand it in common terms that comes from management studies, personality development. So we want to talk about an active process of developing and enhancing our thoughts to make it more positive, attitudes, skills, and behavior in our personality. Now, you would say that the management studies concept is more relevant for us, but I would like to draw your attention to the fact that even the concept coming from psychology is also important because, for example, you may think about a person as having an enduring characteristic of, say, very hardworking. But that person has to be flexible enough to know when hard work is required and when it is time to spend time with your family. So both are important. Coming to yoga, and when we place it in the context of personality, so all this you may already know, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but we need these definitions. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So samatva, so balance, equilibrium, equanimity, a kind of neutrality towards positive and negative emotions and situations in life. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So yoga is skill in action, so skillfully doing something. So two words which are very important for us, balance and skill. That is what yoga is all about. We can kind of summarize to keep it very simple. Of course, there is one more definition which I would like to draw your attention to, which was given by the founder of Kaivalyadhama, Swami Kaivalyadhama. He said, yoga is a science which leads to physical, mental, and spiritual perfection, and is based upon principles that are thoroughly rational. One more word, perfection. We are all striving towards perfection, and yoga helps in that journey. I'm going to connect the dots later on. I'm just giving pieces of the jigsaw puzzle now. So aim of education according to the National Education Policy 2020. The aim of education will not only be cognitive development, but also building character and creating holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with the 21st century skills. So holistic and well-rounded, we can put that into the bucket of balance, and skills is obvious. So you can see that there is enough correlation between what the aim of education is, especially according to the National Education Policy, current one, and what yoga has to offer. Ultimately, knowledge is a deep-seated treasure, and education helps in its manifestation as the perfection which is already within an individual. So what Swamiji said, Swami Kaivalyadhama, about perfection in all ways of life, that you will see embedded in the education policy. All aspects of curriculum and pedagogy will be reoriented and revamped to attain these critical goals. So all these goals are very critical and we need to pay attention to it. And when we think about the National Education Policy, we may think, how have they come up with these goals? So as a human civilization, we have a vision of society. So the vision of education comes from this vision of society, which is inner and outer harmony. The purpose of the education system is to develop good human beings capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical moorings and values. I've underlined that there because yoga has so much to offer in the realm of ethics and to make that good human being. So, integrating yoga for personality development in schools, does it fit? Well, we have seen what personality development, the popular conception of the term is about, what yoga has to offer, and what school education, the purpose is. So, can we integrate? Yes, we can integrate and we should integrate. So, now let's look at zoom in on yoga and the 8 limbs of yoga and how it is a complete personality development package. So let's look at the first limb of yama. So since you all may know that yama covers the social codes of conduct, we can say that that dimension of personality, which is the social dimension, yoga covers. Why? Because the yama talks about these 5 aspects of ahimsa, satya, brahmacharya, asteya, and aparigraha. I will not dwell on it too much because I am assuming that you all already know about this. The niyama is the personal dimension which yoga tries to cater to. How do you develop yourself personally? What are the codes of conduct that you should follow in your personal life? So the personal dimension, we have shaucha, cleanliness, santosha, contentment, which is very important in this time of great stresses, even at a personal level or at a social level. Swadhyaya, the self-study aspect, very important for a student. Tapa, we all try to enforce discipline in our students, so yoga has it as a tenet of personal conduct. And Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender, basically trying to let go of too much of control over things. So social and personal taken care of by the first 2 limbs. What do we have next? Asana. So how do you develop your postures? How do you become more stable in your body? How do you become more comfortable while going through the postures? The physical dimension is developed. When we come to pranayam, we are trying to do something to our body voluntarily through our breath. So we are trying to voluntarily regulate our breath, that which is not natural. We are trying to bring some kind of regulation there, and that touches upon the physiological dimension, because that is something which is very internal, and we are trying to attend to that with the help of our breath. Pratyahara. Now it starts getting deeper. The first 4 dimensions, we can very well orient the children towards this through stories, through discussions. Of course, asana and pranayama, we have those practices, we can teach them. But pratyahara, you may think that even for adults, it may be difficult. But small practices like, practicing mauna or silence, even this can orient the student towards pratyahara, and this caters to the psychological dimension. Dharana. Of course, it's going deeper, but we can have something like practical dharana. You ask a student to plant a tree, that's practical dharana, because that student is totally engrossed in that activity. And for students, such activities wherein there is total focus and concentration or gearing towards it is the fixing of the attention, and we are catering to the mental dimension. Dhyana, It is going deeper. So when you're completely absorbed, it is the intellect that we are trying to develop when there is complete focus and one-pointedness. And of course, samadhi is the spiritual dimension that we are trying to develop in the students. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Samatvam yoga uchyate. That all comes when, when we are leading from dhyana towards the next step and catering to that spirit within you. So, I have told you about the concepts from yoga. We already know about this. Very quickly, let us see what research has to offer. What is the evidence base that we have? So the evidence base is not something that I am going to dwell on too much because this has been already covered yesterday in the plenary session. Just flashing it here for you. One thing I want to stress on, because I'll be explaining this a little in the last slide about self-regulation. This is a very important, this is one of the core principles of yoga, I would say. When we talk about how yoga works, this is not only an effect, but it is also the way yoga works, the mechanism through which yoga works. And we see children are very impulsive these days. They don't know when to switch on and switch off their mobile or their TV. Their emotions, they are so hyper active in their emotions. Sometimes there is dissatisfaction with the body. When there is regulation, and there is one small process which comes before this, but just because this was talked about yesterday, I just flashed it as it is. And one small thing I want to touch upon today is special needs. We have enough evidence about how yoga can work in special needs and to generate inclusive education practices as well for conditions like autism, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, intellectual disability. So if yoga can work on these children, for our normal children, how much more can it work if we integrate yoga as a personality development tool into their lives? We talked a lot about yoga, how it works, and the children, how it can help them. But what about the carers? And here I would like to bring in the teacher. I would like to draw upon the National Curriculum Framework for School Education, which has been recently framed in August 2023. And it tries to implement the national education policy. So when you look at NCF 2023, it is designed with the teacher at the heart of the practice of education. It is the teacher who ultimately is the torchbearer for the changes that we seek in the school environment. So if that is so, we have to be able to cater to the torchbearer of education. So it is very important to introduce yoga practices as a personality development tool for teachers as well, so that there is sustainability of the yogic class environment. This would be my last slide, and then I would go on to show you a small 1-minute video. Very briefly, I want to touch upon the mechanisms of action. So we talked about self-regulation, and you can very well put balance, moderation, equanimity into self-regulation. But there is something which happens before you understand that this is something that I have to regulate, and that is awareness. So this is like a triangle. So first, when you're aware, so when you are just, closing your eyes, when you're telling the child to just sit for 1 minute, close their eyes and just sit still, they're connecting with themselves. They're trying to be aware of their breath. They're trying to be aware of their body. So this aspect goes deeper and deeper as children grow up. And once you have awareness, only then can you regulate. And we have evidence that the mechanisms of action are self-awareness and self-regulation. There is one more aspect which is higher, going into the spiritual dimension. In fact, even self-awareness and self-regulation are also into the spiritual dimension. But when we talk about love and compassion, we are extending our boundaries to those so-called others. The self-transcendence aspect also develops through yoga, but yes, there is yet there is more research needed in this. We don't have so much evidence as of now. Very quickly, the concluding remarks. So age-specific practices and activities as a part of the school curriculum, very important, because for some children, it has to be introduced in a play manner with stories. So for older children, we can introduce in a very different way because their brain is more developed. Teachers and parents to be kept in mind when integrating yoga in school education, and yogic concepts and practices to be introduced in a very engaging and enjoyable way to children. And I have a small video for you. Sound, please.
Down. Let's hop in our place. Ribbit! In your spots. 1, 2, 3. Ribbit! Now let me see who does it higher. 2, 3. Everyone, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it 3 times. 1, start. 2, 3. Yay! Let's come down. And there are some cats. Can you see them? Yes, that's right. Let's go in a circle. Okay? Let's go. Meow.
This
meow.
is Marjari
What sound
Asif.
does she make? Let's do it. Meow.
Done in a very playful way.
Come on, come on. Meow. And show me your cat claws. Meow. Yes. Freeze. Freeze. Let's reverse. One more time. Meow, 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 meow. Go, 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 go. Meow, 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 meow. Yes. That's right. Freeze.
Thank you so much. I think y'all have got the essence of how yoga can be introduced as a personality development package in school education. Thanks a lot.
Request Dr. Kaul to come forward with her presentation.
Namaste everyone. We'll just take a moment of silence before we get into the presentation which I'm going to speak. So just few seconds of silence. Yes. So we heard about the basic understanding. So that part is taken care. I really don't have to run you through what personality is. So we'll directly jump into how yoga and personality come together. And since the 2 days when I've been around the campus, and the one tagline which we have, that when yoga, tradition and science meet. So let's start from there, that how these two things come together, or for that matter, what is the common thing between yoga, tradition and science. So if you just see these two fields, the thing that binds them or brings them together is the quest to know. It's the human want, that need, that curiosity, that what lies beyond. And that is, yoga and science come together, they align together in the intention. It's the intent that brings it, that, oh, I want to know. So when we look at the past yogic tradition, our seers and sages, they wanted to know, so they just went inside and gave us the whole physiological system, how it works, how it can be used to reach the highest. So their quest led them inside, and the quest of science led them to discover the material world. So the ways were very different in the approach, but the underlying thread was the curiosity. And the same curiosity every human being sitting here also carries. So even in the school education, college education, all of us sitting here, what needs to be addressed, or what is that one thing which yoga does? It enables us to address that inner quest to know. And when this inner quest to know is taken up from the field of psychology, and especially when it comes in the domain of yoga psychology, it tells us that yes, there is something inside of you which is very eternal, which you are carrying, and through certain mechanisms outside, you can access it. So how does psychology helps? It enables the students to really go within and discover, like how Mem said, the purpose of self-awareness. So I'll just tell you, we'll just come to this later. So this is what I wanted to tell you, that the process is same. Like as a scientist, the individual sees that the individual is a laboratory. So for the student, the thing is that you are your own laboratory. So how a scientist very intriguingly sees the subject, that okay, what is happening, why that is happening. So the same personality which you are carrying of your own self, you treat it as, okay, I am the instrument, what goes inside of me, can I become more aware? So if I'm having a certain thought, okay, can I just stay with that thought? Or if I'm having a certain emotional turbulence, can I just pause and watch that, okay, what is happening? So developing that ability to manage our own being. Because most of us, though we live in the body, like it looks like the bodies are walking, but what our own identity lies in the mind. Most of us always live and are occupied with our thought process, that what is happening, why is it happening, and this mind happens to be in the body. So all these physical practices and whatever we do through the body is essentially to see that, okay, can we also connect to what is going on in myself? So if we can give this message that you are like a living laboratory, and can you experiment with your own self and see that how I'm doing, what I'm doing, am I able to take it? And how does this process of laboratory works? And this is the idea, that when we can become aware that, okay, I'm using this word personality so much, but what is this personality? What am I carrying? Because I have a tendency of living in the mind, but what else? So giving a basic understanding that, okay, I have a physical sense of self, which always has that characteristic of seeking safety, that am I physically safe? I have a vital component, which is more of an emotional component, the desire component, the ambition component. All of us carry it since childhood, like that's the way human beings are. So there's an element in the personality that seeks satisfaction. And then there's an element in personality, like the mental element, that seeks understanding. And all of us are a combination of these. So if you are, for example, just studying a general psychological understanding, or say when we talk about personality development in the Western perspective, or for that matter, holistic development, we're like, how can we manage this? So managing the outer from the outer. But then where does yoga comes in? Which tells us that this is just an outer framework, and there's an inner presence through which you have to connect it. So this is the whole idea that, okay, you have body, you have emotions, you have intellect, but behind this, the master is sitting. And that presence is which becomes more active in the living interaction in the world. So creating environment, creating conversations, creating situations where every individual can get that space to build that bridge. So personality development from a yogic perspective is really building that inside-out approach. That how am I walking that path? How am I bridging that inner sense which all of us carry and the outer which we are performing in the world? So the fundamental is that how do individuals go from image conscious to conscious living? Most of us, since our school days to college days to our working professional days, all is about the image, the image. Why? Because all our personality is hooked into the identity element, that who am I? And the identity element has, yes, a sense of belongingness component, but it also has an awareness component, that I exist and I have a personality. And how do I manage that personality? So in the school, if I'm really engaging with students, after every class, can I just take 5 minutes of my lecture or my class to just give the students and see that, okay, whatever happened in the last 30, 40 minutes, what did you gain? What in you? Was your mind more active? Were your emotions more active? Were you very fidgety in your physical? Where was your attention? and especially creating that space to express. Like we often talk about the social conduct, the moral conduct, the inner conduct, and we say that, okay, you should learn to speak truth, you should be disciplined. But if I have a child in my class who comes late, and I'm like, why are you late? The child should be able to say the truth and not make up stories. So as a teacher, as a facilitator, it is my space to create that, okay, do I give that space for the child to say that, okay, mera man nahi tha? Or I want them to be holding to their image and make up stories. The most overused story in any form of academic organization or corporate organization is I was not well. So physical always take that brunt. Why? Because it is a tangible thing. So though we always talk about subjectivity, that we have to go inside, we have to have that inner presence, but we have not yet developed the vocabulary to address what is happening inside. So though I'm having an inner experience, but for me it will be as a child or as a student that, oh, this inner experience is my experience. But when I want to go out and interact in the world, I have to be a certain way. So we often speak about that yoga of self-perfection. But self-perfection will only come when we have a deeper understanding of self. That there's a self that is executing, which is on the outside, and there's a sense of self within. And when I'm really bridging them, I'm becoming that, yes, I have. So my anchor lies within. So especially from younger age, if we build that, like in certain schools who follow integral education, they have this concept for very young children that they have spaces where they say that it's time to connect to your andar ka dost. Because they will not understand the divine presence, the inner presence. It's like their dedicated time, and then it's like, okay, you are confused. Just go sit with yourself sometime and see how your andar ka dost is talking to you. So more and more orienting to see that how am I really able to, and also capable and confident to listen to my own voice. So with this, because once I understand that all of these things which are happening outside are a part of my personality, are a part of my structure, but there's also something which is more stable. So there is one thing which I'll show you. Yes. So there are two things to a human personality in that sense. One is the composition, which is the inner, which is the sense which all of us carry, and it is not just limited to school students, even all of us have that. And we don't address it that much. Our focus is more on the functionality. So if we present this model in that sense that, okay, the instrument in between is the identity, is the individual who you are. And yoga helps us to become more aware of the simultaneity in our nature. That there's an inner story, there's an inner narration which the student is going through. And there's an outer performance. And how do we bring it together in a space which we can offer them as teachers, as mentors? And the composition is what yoga focuses so much on. That is why silence is so much appreciated in the yogic journey. Because it's only when you're silent, then you're able to hear the voice. Because usually what we are always lost in the noise. So how do we make that journey from that noise to that voice is where silence is important. But if we are just sitting in silence, then there's also a sense of that fear of missing out or not being able to develop certain aspects of our identity which are required to execute in the world. So as early as possible in a person, if we can develop these two simultaneously, that there's an element which is going deeper, which is having that sense of silence, and then there's an element which is also sharpening the instrument, that am I getting better at emotionally regulating myself? Am I getting better in understanding intellectually? Am I getting able to understand that my physical existence is as important as my other forms? Because usually, like how I spoke about the image conscious element, in students, especially when you move from the 5th standard to say the 10th standard, that's the space that they're very like in that comparison mode with each other, especially on the outer. That how am I looking, how am I speaking, is my English that good, am I dressed well? So all of these things, so they're not so much interested in what the teacher is saying. They're like, if the teacher asks me that question, will I be able to answer? What if I'm not able to answer? So they're constantly focused on the belonging sense of identity. That how am I going to perform, how am I going to perform? So pointing that out, that okay, that is just one aspect, but this is being connecting to something which is more vaster. So that constant connection gives that sense or that ease of being to a participant, and so they can have that collective feeling. So one is an individual self-reflection and one is a group. Because for students, group is important. Otherwise, the thing is that because they stay so much in their head, they're like, all these problems are just my problem. Every other student is perfect. So if the teacher is saying a difficult concept, I'm the only one who's not understanding, the others understand, so I'll not ask. So more and more when we'll encourage group interaction, because see, as human beings, especially as children, we have that need to have that sense of identity, sense of self-assertion that I exist. And along with that, I also have to have that group affiliation. So it's like मुझे अकेले भी होना है कि मैं हूँ और मुझे भीड़ में भी खो जाना है. It's like if I'm sitting comfortably, like all students, the moment you call one student on the stage, suddenly everything changes because the spotlight is on that student. So how to manage this as like simultaneously step by step that yes, I want to maintain my uniqueness and my uniqueness is rooted in my existence. And my group affiliation also comes with how I offer my uniqueness to the group. So understanding that essence and then offering it in the group. So that ease when a student gets, then they become very, very confident to face the world. Because then they are not feeling that, oh, I'm left. It's like I am bringing something which is of mine to the collective. So all the needs, because we have emotional needs, we have social needs, all the needs which we have are catered to. And that is what that yogic understanding helps because, and especially I just wanted to focus on this. So when we think of yoga, because we are focusing so much, these are the three fundamental aspects which it talks about. There's a philosophy aspect to yoga, there's a psychology aspect, and there's a physiology aspect. So just seeking as a student or as a human being, what is my entry point? And what is my entry point? If I'm more of an emotional person, if I'm more of able to see that, okay, how is psychology my entry point to understand the vast field of yoga? Is physiology my entry point? Is understanding philosophy my entry point? And then from that entry point, spending all and bringing it all together. So as a student, if I'm a person who is very much rooted in my consciousness is rooted in the physical, that element is what I'm going to. But if I'm more of an understanding, then I'll come to that level. So bringing your attention and seeing this. So I just want to close with this idea that every human being has this double nature and we are constantly torn between this. And that is why we always say, no, antardvant. That we have that inner life that is going on, which is like, how do I focus on my intention? What is that inner presence which is within me? The whole experience of subjectivity. Like for example, I've been talking for so many minutes. Your outer surface is listening to me, your mental you, because you understand the language you're comprehending. But there's a subtle inner thing which is going on, which is kind of narrating that, okay, I want to listen it, or I don't want to, this is not. So there's a constant narration, and behind that narration is a part of personality, which is saying that why this narration is happening. So yoga helps us to go more and more into that subtleties and helps us to really connect to the essence so that we really, the normal consciousness operating in the sense of preservation mode. All of us are always living like this to just navigate through life. So how can we go from that preservation to that progress mode and really start living consciously? And lastly, to just finish with this, I'll just give you this and we'll leave you for few moments and just see how you feel about this, like whatever line, whatever word which you pick and you resonate with, and just remember that yoga is a process-oriented approach and we are walking towards self-perfection. And the more and more we become conscious walking towards self-perfection, recognize our limitations, recognize our strength, and create a balance of really bringing our uniqueness and offering it to the collective, that is how we grow and that is how we attempt to become a more full being and offer it to the world and the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Praseeda ji, Menon, and Dr. Kaul. It was very exciting for particularly technical people, those who know about psychology, and also those who are not knowing much of psychology, both, but mainly for psychology people. Therefore, I am here to summarize in common language. What yoga speaks about is what man is, what he can become, and how he can become so. How part is quite missing in modern approach. Even though they have cognitive behavioral therapy and very many therapies are there, and rational emotive therapy and so on. But the changes are made from inside, from on the emotional level, and here yoga scores. So yoga is not having this dichotomy, spiritual life and phenomenal life. This is two sides of the same coin. Approach is this: your phenomenal life is full of spirituality. In olden days, we have so many sanskars, opinion sanskar, this and that. On one hand, we say that yoga is beautiful, life is very beautiful. On the other hand, we say that life is to be understood and we transcend, and it is, we go to moksha. Huh? Seemingly, it is a kind of contradiction, but it is not so. Once you transcend the phenomenal life, then you are fit to go towards spirituality. This is the echo there. So self-development is yogic approach. Social development is psychological approach, even though they also try to give you some self-development. But the methods available in yoga is too far superior. And therefore, the need of the hour is to make a balance between the two. Social adjustment is emphasized much more, while social adjustment has not been much emphasized, seemingly, in yoga. So yoga has got this little bit. Why so? Why it has happened? Because yoga was not going to the roots, and many people at the grassroots level, and therefore very few people were quite having prerogative of yoga. That was the reason. Swami Kaivalyadhama and others, they have made a human contribution to this field, that men on the street should be benefited through yoga. If that happens, then we don't need social inputs too much, because social enhancement will happen, social development will happen, because the person is developed and he thinks about others too. So it is quite obvious. So we have to now take care of social aspect, that means psychological aspect, how personality is, inner and outer, what Dr. Kaul has said. Now, overemphasis on any of these two at this moment is not allowed, should not be allowed. Both self-development and social development. Synthesis is the need of the hour. So we have in our country achar, vichar, ahar and vihar. Everything is yogic there. And now modern psychology speaks about in modern language, that is self-awareness, self-regulation, self-transcendence. But these are there in our culture long back. That is self-awareness. We have different types of, say, sanskars, as I told you, when we were small, we were given feedback, and then mantras, Vishnu Sahasranam, this and that, so many things were there. And there we had self-awareness, who am I? And then we have self-regulation with the help of yoga practices. You know how to control your psychophysiology. Even children know. Because I was not doing this Kriya Yoga and therefore I'm not feeling well. This is the common response by the people. So I will now restart my Kriya Yoga because it helps me. So self-regulation happens there. Self-transcendence. We have yoga philosophy. Yoga darshan is the correct term. Whereby each and every time we know that who we are. We are not body. We are not even Anandamaya Kosha. We are even beyond Anandamaya Kosha. We are beyond all Panchakosha. So all these things are there. So only thing that modern psychology gives very, very catchy terms so that people understand that also should be welcomed. So inner quest is to know. So all that what Dr. Kaul has said and Dr. Praseeda, it is quite relevant that we should know both outer and inner personality. In yoga philosophy and in yoga practice, all these things are put together very beautifully. Only thing that we have to speak in terms of psychology so that people understand. So this has been done very beautifully by our speakers. So self-perception has been very nicely spoken by Dr. Kaul, and Dr. Praseeda has spoken about yogi concept and also the comparison, a little bit of yoga and psychology. On the whole, we can sum it up that there is a balance needed. And for that, we need to go in our own old scriptures. And for that, I want to mention one, the prize which went to some Nishchal, Mr. Nishchal has a wonderful paper poster presentation. I recommend that you should go there. And in our old Upanishads and very many scriptures, we have this, how to make balance between the outer world and the inner world, and we go forward. It is there. I recommend that you should please just have a look at that poster. This is from Pondicherry's. So thank you very much again for all of you, and particularly our speakers, to give very, very stimulating their time, their expressions to what they wanted to speak about it. And in sum total, we say that yes, we look forward to go into our own roots first, and then we interpret it in psychological term, not the other way around. Because other way around means altered states of awareness. They call it samadhi. Psychology does not believe in samadhi. It's an altered states of awareness. But we have already such kind of things, and the time has come that we need to speak yoga in terms of psychology, not the other way around. Thank you very much, and thanks a lot. Thank you.
How really illuminating that session was. Thank you to your panelists for highlighting yoga's roles in the lives of students and caregivers, and for clearly stating its significance in molding one's personality. It is definitely the quest, the intention, curiosity that brings yoga and science together. Certainly, your own laboratory is a great message that can be shared with the students. I am sure all teachers and educators present here benefited from this insightful session. I extend my humble words of gratitude to you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now take a short break for tea. For all sports enthusiasts, all right, there's been a slight change. We shall now continue with the next session, that is yoga and competitive sports. Okay, we shall have a short question and answer session for 5 minutes.
हेलो, हाँ, डॉक्टर कौर मैडम को मेरा प्रश्न है. आपने बोला कि यम है सोशल डेवलपमेंट के लिए और नियम पर्सनल डेवलपमेंट के लिए है. ऐसा कौन से सूत्र में लिखा है? पहला प्रश्न. अगर यम हम उसका योग का जो मेन उद्देश्य है वह चित्तवृत्ति निरोध है. अगर योग सोशल डेवलपमेंट हो, सोशल डेवलपमेंट तो चित्तवृत्ति निरोध नहीं हो सकता है. पर्सनल डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर ही चित्तवृत्ति निरोध हो सकता है. तो आप जरा क्लियर कीजिए.
मैंने उसे सिर्फ एक एग्जाम्पल की तौर से यूज़ किया कि जब भी हम कुछ भी इनकलकेट करने की कोशिश करते हैं मेरी पर्सनालिटी में, अंदर या बाहर, उसको बाहर एक्सप्रेस करने के लिए मुझे एक जगह चाहिए होती है. तो अगर मैंने एक बच्चे को सिखाया कि मुझे सच बोलना चाहिए, ये मेरे लिए भी अच्छा है और मेरी इंटरेक्शन दुनिया के लिए भी अच्छा है, तो क्या मैं अपने क्लासरूम में एक माहौल क्रिएट कर सकती हूँ कि वो बच्चा सच बोले, वो डरे ना? तो बच्चा ये तो सीख रहा है कि मुझे सच बोलना चाहिए, लेकिन जब वो क्लास में आ रहा है तो वो टीचर से इतना डर रहा है कि वो सच बोल ही नहीं पा रहा। तो एज अ टीचर, एज अ फैसिलिटेटर, क्या मैं उतना कंफर्ट दे सकती हूँ कि बच्चा मुझसे सच बोले? तो ये डबल है, बच्चे की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि वो सच बोलना सीखे, और टीचर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि क्या वो ऐसा माहौल क्रिएट कर सकता है डर के बियॉन्ड कि बच्चा वो बोले। तो वो मैंने सिर्फ एक एग्जाम्पल की तरह आपको बताया था। थैंक यू।
Just one more question. Last question.
This is for all three of whoever wants to. See, sitting here, I get very confused while listening. There is so much of modern pedagogy and psychology that is available, which seems even the examples from the Kavian is pretty much what any progressive school does. Not using the word yoga, they do it because it's a play the children learn. Play-based pedagogy is fairly well accepted, well developed pedagogy, which but when we talk about bringing yoga, then what I see missing and I get puzzled is that where are we connecting yoga to this? See, what the gentleman said कि अगर चित्त वृत्ति निरोध ही योग है, तो ये तो सब वृत्तियों के अंदर ही सारा कुछ हो रहा है. So I am at a loss to really comprehend the role of yoga at that level where children, young children are, interacting, playing, learning. How do I get them to pay? I mean, at the knowledge level, I accept, I understand that modern science or the Western psychology doesn't go to the level of chetana, or I mean, it is always at the level of thought. It relates to vrittis, that is what we know as. So I see that there is a remarkable contribution yoga could make to the human life by bringing the chetana aspect. But when we get to the school level, how do I really do it? And how do I really connect? Because children will not be able to understand. And whether, therefore, my question, the second question is, whether it is really possible at all, or are we just stretching it because it has to happen in school education? Could it just be that it's meant for people who have nurtured their senses and now they need to withdraw from the senses and not start from beginning?
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Your question is quite relevant. Am I audible? Your question is quite relevant, but I will give one answer here, part one of my answer. The second part we can speak outside because of the time constraint. The Chitta Vritti Nirodha you said about how to integrate that into school education. In fact, all foreign authors speak about Chitta Vritti Nirodha as cessation of modifications of mind, means stopping. How can you stop? It is actually, if you know the meaning of Nirodha, it is Nirgata Rodha. That means you have to transcend. You are amidst all kinds of problems, but you remain aloof. That kind of art. It is only possible when we go to the root, that is Sanskrit interpretation, not the one given by foreign people and we are following blindly. This is one part of the second part, I will speak about it. And this way we have to interpret, go to the root. So each yoga expert should at least to some extent should know the Sanskrit part of it so that he can answer, he can implement yoga correctly, whatever is enjoined in our scriptures. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the poster presentation winners, once again, who are present here, Dr. Abhirami Manchikam, requesting you to please come up on stage and sir. Requesting Sir B.S. Singh to be ready as well. In second place in the philosophical literary research, we have B.S. Singh for the title of his poster, Integration of Yoga in School Education, India and Global Scenario. Thank you, sir. We have a very short bio break. If anyone needs to go use the toilet, please do so now, because after this, we'll be seated in this hall.